Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. I did take last week off, 4th of July holiday, decided to take the holiday weekend off. So back in the saddle here, a little bit delayed, got a lot of family things going on this weekend. So trying to get this out here Sunday morning in hot Texas, North Texas. It is hot. It was like, I don't know, 104 yesterday. It's going to be about 104 again today. And it doesn't look like any end in sight. It is July in North Texas. Okay, so I call this video grinding lower because that's exactly what we've been doing, and that seems to be what is, when you look at the wave count, we'll look at it in a minute. We're going to look at the S&P 500. That seems to be exactly what is coming too, in terms of the kind of grind forward. Now, we got a lot of things on the plate this coming week. Just in the economy, we got in the United States, we got producer price index, industrial production. We have consumer sentiment. We got the Fed's beige book. All of that's going to be coming out this week. And then we got bank earnings starting on Thursday, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and on Friday, Citigroup and Wells Fargo. So there's going to be a lot of things going to start kicking in here. But when you look at what happened, we got the Dow, the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq Composite. This is the weekly view side by side. And the Dow was up 241 points, the S&P 74 points, and the Nasdaq 507 just this last week. But I think the interesting thing is there's a couple of things. I mean, look how we're just, chopping our way, grinding our way lower. Now, granted, the NASDAQ has been one that's been the weakest and has been pushing harder, and lower, faster. And it peaked out earlier, right, back in November, well before the Dow and the S&P 500. And of course, the NASDAQ 100, the Qs, look almost identical to what's going on with the Nasdaq Composite. Now, the other interesting thing that I note when I look in here, if you look here on May 15th, the week of May 15th, where we closed, and then look, we closed right here on the Dow at 31,261.90. Where did we close on Friday? 31,338. I mean, 261.90. So let's just say 262 to 338. We're talking 76 points or so, plus or minus. 76 points is what's been gained over the last 2, 4, 6, 7 weeks here. As we've basically kind of chopped sideways, but as a part of the overall grinding lower highs, lower lows. I mean, this is the definition of a downtrend, right? Lower highs and lower lows, and that's exactly what's going on. And when you look at the S&P, it's the same thing. Here's the week of May 15th, okay? And it's the same kind of thing. We closed 3901.36, and we closed 3899. So, I mean, we're talking about down 1 to 2 points over the last 2, 4, 6, 7 weeks. Now, the NASDAQ has bounced up a little bit more. We're getting a little more of a reaction because it had a stronger downdraft, and now it's getting a little bit more of a bounce, but not that much more. When you look at May 15th, closed 11,354, and then over here, we're closing at 634. So less than 300 points over the same time frame, 7 weeks. So that's an interesting picture. Not a ton of movement, but as a part of an overall grind lower. Okay, so let's dive in and take a look at the S&P 500. I'm going to go back to the home screen. Here's the weekly view on the left-hand side. Here's the low, the intra-week, intraday low that's occurred so far, and that occurred right here on June 17th. We had a pretty good little downdraft in here with some gapping going on, and now we're getting a bounce back. The real question is this the high, or are we still, I'm talking about a pullback, a retracement, or are we still, finding the end of this wave 2 pullback? And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. Let's just go right to the wave count. I think we are still in a third minor wave, and whether you call this minor wave or intermediate wave, it doesn't really matter right now. We'll see how big and strong it ends up being. Well, let's take a look at the daily chart here. And I'm looking down my notes, make sure I'm not looking at anything. By the way, I am going to look at Apple and Amazon today as a part of this. And they have earnings coming out on July 28th, I believe it is. Why is this not adjusting? There we go. That's a little bit better. So here's what I think is going on. Here's the 1-2 that I talked about, and working our way down in third wave. I don't think we've got a third wave impulsive wave structure complete yet. And remember, when you're in a third wave and when you're in an impulsive wave structure, you can't have overlap between 1 and 4 and all of that. You have to, it has to be a pure impulsive wave structure down. Okay, so that's why I think this is what's going on. This is my preferred wave count. And within the third minute wave down, I think we're trying to carve out the 5 waves that we need within the third wave. But we haven't fallen out of bed. I thought we were going to do it here at the end of June, going to the start of this last week. And then we just didn't quite do it. Okay, so here's the picture. And so I think there's a real possibility that maybe, as the alternate count in here, it could be that this wave 2 really hasn't ended here, that it's carving out something a little bit more to go to the upside. Maybe we close that gap over here. It's unclear. We'll have to see what happens in here right now. But this is the way I'd look at it in terms of what we've got. These are just a path forward, not a projection. I'm not saying this is where this third wave is going to be down here. It's just carving out, linking the wave structure and carving out a path forward. So this is what I'm looking for. But again, do I sit here and place bets on this that says, oh, okay, I'm betting it's going down right now? No, no, no. You got to wait till price action tells you it's truly rolling over and breaking down. It's just not doing it yet. So if it continues to push higher in here, we take out this high, then you've got to lean into the fact that, okay, we have a bigger ABC zigzag going on. Like this could be the alternate A, B, C that comes up, closes this gap, and then gives us this count right here. Okay, so that is my best take on what the alternate would be down in here. But let me go back to the bigger picture on the SPX. So a lot of folks are looking at this saying, couldn't this be something else? Now, here's the other possibility, that this could be a leading diagonal of some kind. And again, I've got this, in this case, I've got it labeled as, okay, this is intermediate wave 1 down here. Now, here's what I'm looking at. And let me get rid of, I don't really need that right now. In a leading diagonal pattern, you don't have to have every 5-wave move to be zigzags, but 2 and 4 need to be zigzags, and 4 needs to overlap 1. So in this labeling, 4 overlaps 1, so we check that box, okay? But when you look at this wave 4 in here, I don't see this as a zigzag. And if I said, okay, well, wait, this is where I've got it on my preferred count, that the wave structure ended here, okay? I've got on the preferred count, let me go back to it, let me show you. I've got it like this, right? I've got it 1, 2, and we're working our way down at 3. Here's where wave 1 of the third wave I've got ended, and I've got this as a flat, an expanded flat for wave 2. So if I come back over here, this to me does not look like a zigzag for a wave 4. So that's the fly in the ointment with this wave structure. But I can see how this is a, could be a possibility. I just don't see how I make this work. That's why I'm staying with this as my preferred count. And I think we're just grinding our way lower, and all of a sudden we're walking our way right smack dab into earnings season. And I think that's going to make, we're going to have some big adjustments coming on. All right, so let's take a look at a couple of the heavyweights, the 2 biggest stocks that are in the S&P 500 by weight. And we'll take a look at Apple first, then Amazon. Okay, so here's Apple, and here's the weekly view of Apple. It was up $8.11 this last week. Pretty big bounce up. But look where this is at. Okay, so I looked at this and said, here's the week of May 8th. I know on the indices, I just talked about May 15th, but what really jumped out at me here was the week of May 8th. It closed at 147.11. That's why I got this identified right here, and I did a dotted line across. Where did we close? Don't be confused by this. This is aftermarket trading. We actually closed the Friday and the week at 147.04. So literally we are down 7 cents over the last 8 weeks of trading. Talk about just chopping sideways, basically, for the last 8 weeks. And so when you look at this, okay, here's the daily view on this. This is what I call my moving average views, where I've got the indicators, all the indicators and everything that I use. I really try to keep it simple. I've found, and believe me, we've done a lot of different things over the years. The simpler you keep it, the better off you are, okay, in terms of the number of indicators and everything else. So right now on Apple, if this continues to push higher, like I talked about in the alternate on the daily view of the S&P 500, if the correction isn't done and we continue to push a little bit higher, I think we're going to run into some resistance up in here in this zone. And this zone have got identified 150.62 to 152.58. So 150.50 to 152.50, right? In this $2 range in here. It ran into resistance back in June, beginning of June, end of May, beginning of June. If we continue to push higher, I think the same thing is going to happen again. The real question is, are we going to get there? Now, the other thing is, look at the volume. The volume here on Apple is really just flat. It's just flat. There's no big increase in volume with this move that's happened. That was the other thing I was going to mention, and I forgot to mention. Let me go back to the SPX. So here's the moves that happened in these last few days, okay? We had 4 days of trading this last week because of the holiday, okay? 3 out of the 4 days, the breadth on the New York Stock Exchange was negative. Okay? That is not a real bullish sign in terms of a push higher. When you have more declining stocks than advancing stocks and you continue to push higher, you're not doing it under strength. Okay, let's go back to Apple. So here's what we're looking at. And when I look at Apple, I look at this and say, well, similar to what I'm seeing in the S&P, I think we had a first move, a sharp wave 2, and I think we're working our wave 3 down, and I don't believe it's done. Okay, very, very similar to what we've got with the S&P 500, and of course, this is a part of the S&P 500. All right, let's take a look at Amazon. Let me go back to the weekly view. I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to show you the same thing with Amazon. Okay, so here is the week ending. Let me get it. This is a little bit different. This is a week of May 1st. Okay, so a little bit different because we're talking about 9 weeks here instead of 8 with Apple. But this is where the picture looks best in terms of the sideways type movement. Closed the week of May 1st at 114.77, and we closed 115.54, up a whopping 87 cents on Amazon over the last 9 weeks. Now that's what you call going chopping sideways. Okay, but it's the same kind of picture. We're getting this kind of consolidation, definitely on the weekly chart after that big downdraft. Not really a surprise, because now it's regrouping, and I'm looking for another leg down, and we've had the same kind of thing here, similar type picture that we had on Apple. And the other thing is my trend line got a little out of whack here. Apple's volume was flat. Amazon's volume is declining, okay, over this last week. So the breadth's been negative on the New York Stock Exchange 3 out of the 4 days. The volume's dropping off here with Amazon, and the volume's flat with Apple. So we may not even push higher with these. It'll be interesting to see. And again, just watching right in here, it almost looks, when I look at this, it almost looks like a little bit of a head and shoulders consolidation pattern of some kind, right, like this. Now, in a head and shoulders consolidation pattern, that's exactly what it is. You know, it's a consolidation. It's been going sideways. That's what I just talked about when we looked at this view right here. Okay, so this just looks to me like this is getting ready to break down, right, like that. So we'll see if that's what we get. Declining volume, sideways type movement, grinding lower. Okay, that is it for this week. We'll see what happens this coming week. I think we're going to get a lot of action. If you felt like the video was helpful, give it a thumbs up on the on YouTube. And if you're not a subscriber to the YouTube channel, hit that little subscriber button. And if you'd like more of this kind of information on a regular basis, head over to joehenches.net. Check out the website. Check out the membership. Everyone, have a great week. We'll talk to you next weekend.